Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar, which is all about accessibility. My name's James from the Typeform community team. And today we're going to be talking about accessibility. And the reason why is today is Global Accessibility Awareness Day. Now, this is a day, it's actually in its 10th anniversary now. Which aims to get everybody thinking, talking, and learning about digital access and inclusion. So we thought that today we'd sort of mark the occasion by talking about Typeform's own journey in this respect and how we're working towards accessibility. The idea being that we can give you an idea about what we're doing and share some of the things that we're learning along the way to hopefully help you create engaging digital experiences that are inclusive to everybody. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be revisiting a talk from our Meaningful event last month, which some of you may have attended. So we did a big conference where folks from Typeform and outside of Typeform came along and kind of imparted their wisdom on a variety of subjects. And one of the topics was the road to accessibility, which was presented by our wonderful Accessibility Guild members, Olga and Yuri from the Typeform research and product teams. And I'm delighted to say that they are joining me here now to talk to us. So let me pull them up on screen if I can. Hello, Yuri and Olga.
Hello.
Hello, great to have you here. It's lovely to see you. Whereabouts are you in the world? Like I'm in Barcelona, obviously where Typeform is headquartered, but I know that folks have kind of like started spreading their wings and flying away. So where are you both at the moment?
Yeah, I'm also in Barcelona actually, but I am from Sweden, and I just came back from spending 3-4 weeks in Sweden. So nice to be back in sunny Barcelona.
Nice to have you back.
Me the same. I'm also in Barcelona, so maybe now we already have a nice group for Friday or Saturday lunch or dinner. But yeah, we are all in Barcelona.
Great. Well, it's awesome to have you here. So before we go ahead and sort of go back in time to the talk, I kind of wanted to start by asking you guys why now? Why are we talking about accessibility in Typeform right now, and why did you kind of choose to present this at the Meaningful event?
Yuri, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think there are two things that we can talk about there. One is because we believe we are in a much better position regarding accessibility now, but at the same time, we know that we are still not in the final position where we can say that, we have done everything possible. We are extremely accessible. We are not there yet, and we understand this. And talking about it, what we want to make sure is that people understand that it's not, you don't go from 0 to 100 from one day to the other. There are a lot of steps that we have to go through. There's a long time that this needs to happen. And I think by doing this, we might encourage other people that are also on this journey. And I think sometimes we have a fear to present anything that we think it's not final or it's not perfect, but it shouldn't be like this. It's not, the final product counts a lot, but I do think the journey is the one that counts the most, the experience that you learn in this journey. So I think we are doing this because of this. And I think the second part is why Typeform tackled accessibility now. And we do believe it comes a lot from a company maturity. The company matures over time, and we start to better understand how things work, what is important. And I think Typeform is becoming more mature and really understand the importance of accessibility if we focus on this topic now. So I think those are the two whys into why accessibility in general at Typeform, and why we're talking here, why we spoke on the meaningful event, and why you're speaking here.
Yeah, and I can just add like a third point, more on a personal level. So about a year ago, Typeform was about to spin up different guilds across the organization. So these kind of interest groups where you can come together, focus on a topic. It could be like very work related or more hobby related. And you and I saw an opportunity there to spin up a group to focus on accessibility. And we were looking for other people to help us run it and be like the host of it. But then we realized, no, okay, we are proposing it, we should do it. So we gathered a group of people who were interested in the topic across the departments. But early on, we realized that like the two of us had to learn a lot about accessibility, because we were gonna share it with the guild and then also in the future with the rest of the company. So now it's been about a year since we kicked this off, and I think this like at this point we've grown also on a personal level and feel more confident in sharing what accessibility means, and how we're doing it at Typeform. So it's been both a journey for Typeform, but I think a journey for us also, a learning journey that is still going on, of course. But looking back the last year, we learned a lot.
Cool. Great. And what a fantastic opportunity for you guys to kind of learn about this, and for us now to kind of benefit from your learnings and all the stuff that you've been doing. So we really appreciate you coming on here and taking the time out to kind of present this. So what we're going to do now is kind of sit back and watch the talk that you guys gave at the Meaningful event. And then Yuri and Olga will be back here with me afterwards. So the talk is 30 minutes long to answer any questions live. So if you, the viewer, have kind of questions that come up as you're watching the talk, throw them into the YouTube chat, and then we'll be back to answer those with Yuri and Olga after the video. So let me see if the technology actually works. So I'm going to play the video out now, in theory.
Really exciting to be here and share this story with all of you. So my name is Olga, and I also have Yuri here with me. And we will be sharing the journey to accessibility, so Typeform's journey, and why it matters and why it takes so long. And I work as a principal user researcher at Typeform, and I joined this initiative about a year ago with the goal of bringing in a user perspective and making sure that we not just focus on compliance. And what really inspires me in this work is all the stories that Yuri and I get to hear in the interviews that we do with people. And then when we share these stories with the rest of the team. And that's also what we hope to do here today. So that's a little bit of an intro about me. Yuri, do you want to say a couple of words about you as well?
Yeah, and I think we started on accessibility more or less a year ago. I think we'll share a little bit on this timeline during the presentation, and it's just been really rewarding. I think one thing that I also want people to understand is that I think it's the two of us here presenting, but there has been so many other people involved. The engineers have worked so hard on it as well. So I think we need, it's the two of us here presenting, but we need to make sure that everyone understands that there were so many other people involved. And I think we've been really lucky to have so many good people involved in this process. And I think we can start.
Nice. Okay, so to kick this off and just to give you a bit of a context of what we're going to focus on today. So we'll start a bit with a definition of what disability means. And then we're going to go through a Typeform's journey from start to where we are now, and then head into some takeaways. And in the end of this, we'll have a Q&A for you to ask questions. So yeah, let's kick it off. So as a first step, I think it's really important to align about what disability is. Because most of us, when we think about disability, we think about impairment. But like impairment as a problem in someone's body or someone's structure. When actually disability is something much more bigger than that. Yes, it can be an impairment, but it can also be an activity limitation or participation restriction. And the World Health Organization, they recognize this by saying that disability is not a health problem. They understand that it's something much more complex than this, which is the interaction between us and our bodies and the society and the day-to-day activities in our life. So with this, just to make sure that we're all aligned on this, we want to share a couple of stories with you. So the first one is about Ted. Ted is one of the participants from our ongoing user research studies that we're doing at Typeform to fuel the accessibility initiative. And Ted is super passionate about technology. He lives in a nursing home together with his wife. And he is legally blind and has lost a couple of limbs due to a peripheral neuropathy. And in this video clip that we're going to show now to the rest of you, he's talking us through how he's using his phone. So let's have a view.
Let me know if
I
you
found
can
this
hear.
lanyard on Amazon, and it's my leash to my phone. And as you see, I've got my fingers sort of pinched on the.
Yes.
I'll get it in my teeth.
Yes.
Pick it up like this.
Uh-huh.
Put my hands under the phone like this and have it resting on my chin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and it does get a little wobbly, and it sometimes falls out of my hand, and I got to start over again. Turn off Bluetooth.
Okay.
Turn on Bluetooth.
Okay. I turned Bluetooth on.
Okay, I just wanted to do that so you could hear voiceover while I do things. So, since I'm not using voice control anymore, and my primary way to use the phone is by my facial features, I use my nose to swipe left, right, up, and down. I use my nose to do a single finger, 1 tap, 2 taps, 3 tap. If I need to do a 2-finger tap or double tap, I use my nose and my upper lip. If I need to do a 3-finger tap, you guessed it, nose, upper lip, lower lip. And God forbid I have to do a 4-finger tap and incorporate my chin in all this. It gives a whole new meaning to FaceTime.
So yeah, as you can see, I'm enjoying myself a lot in this calls because of all the great people that we get to meet. And Ted here, as you can see, is super open with us and sharing his needs. And as a first step in our kind of step towards further understand the people people like behind accessibility, we started doing these interviews to further understand how people are using technology and what the specific needs are. And what's interestingly here is when we show this clip to our colleagues in our team, at least two people from the team, they told us, "Oh, you know what? I actually also use my phone in a similar way as Ted, specifically when it's cold outside and I'm wearing my gloves, so I'm interacting with my phone using my nose." And this brings us to our first message and one of our first learnings working on this initiative, that when we start to solve for one kind of a group of people's needs, so let's say take Ted as an example here, who lost a few limbs, we can see that we start to extend it to a bigger group. So what we learned quite quickly is that, okay, if we start to solve for a person who lost their, like is missing a limb, for example, we see that it's solving the same needs as for a person who has a temporary impairment, such as someone who, for example, been on a ski trip and broken their arm. And then we see that when we start to extend this to people with situational impairments, such as a new parent. So I'm sure people out there who have kids can recognize from the early days when they were carrying around their baby using one arm and kind of limited by only using one arm. And a big learning here for us and the team is when working with accessibility, we often get kind of challenged and questioned about the impact we're having, because people are thinking that we're always solving for a small group of people. But actually what we've learned is that when we solve for one group of people, we in most cases are extending it to a much bigger group. So to put some numbers on this, we have an example here of that in the US, 26,000 people a year suffer from a loss of an upper extremities. But when you start to include people with temporary and situational impairments, this number is greater than 20 million. And I think this is important for all of us to like take a step back and start to understand the impact all of us can have here. And this visual is maybe some of you recognize it already. It's one that that we got from a Microsoft who are doing a lot of work within accessibility. But what's interesting as well is that we can see that this is not just for people who lost like an arm. It also extends to the wide range of different personas that we have within accessibility. So we just talked about touch, but we can see it also extends to seeing, hearing, and speaking. So with this, I want to hand it over to Yuri to start sharing a little bit more about where we are.
Yeah, so as we said in the beginning, we just want to show here a little bit of how we've got where we are. So when we started, how we started, a few points that we went through in this process. And I think, as Rachel said in the beginning as well, it's not a process that we are already there, we are already in the final stage. No, this is a process that we are still learning from. So we want to share with you the points that we've been learning and how we've been applying accessibility at Typeform. So first year that we got into accessibility was in 2019, when we hired an external company to test our Typeform and give us a report in the WCAG 2.1, WCAG being the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So this report actually, they essentially tried Typeform and verified against a huge list of requirements, the requirements that had to meet these standards, and told us which ones we were failing, which ones we were passing but could be improved, and which one were passing. So this was basically a report saying against these requirements, saying what we were achieving and not achieving accessibility. In 2019, still, our engineers started an initiative to start making it accessible. And then in 2020 already, because of this first report, the engineering team also saw a need for training, and all the team started receiving training into accessibility. After this training and receiving a bit more knowledge on how to treat all the accessibility points, we started working on the issues from this first report. So we saw where we were failing or where we could improve, and started working on these. And after we felt that we got where we wanted to be regarding these requirements, we asked for a second report. And of course, the second report still came with some improvements. And we continue working on these improvements based on the second report. At the same time, we started understanding that just trying Typeform against these requirements and just trying to fix these issues to meet these requirements, just to give a check on the checkboxes for these requirements, wasn't going to be enough for us on the long term. We felt, and with Olga, that we needed a way to put these in front of the users to understand the users. So this is at a point where we started trying to shift our thinking of just meeting requirements to actually making accessibility usable. And this was when we partnered with another organization to test directly with assistive technology users. So we not only started testing Typeforms with these assistive technology users, but as Olga just shared with TED, we also started interviewing, getting a better understanding of how they are using, what are the issues that they have, how they go around the issues, and how we can improve the experience, not only meeting the requirements, but also making sure that these were really good experiences. And going back to Olga, I'll leave her to talk a bit more about our testings and interviews.
Perfect. So one of the first learnings that we got from these interviews is that independence is key. No one wants to live a life dependent on someone else, and I think all of us recognizes that feeling. And we also learned, and was really kind of, I guess, a little bit surprised as well, that due to the fast-pacing technology, life in general is becoming easier and allows people living with a disability to have a more independent life. And what's interestingly here, moving on to the next section, is that of course we have all the assistive technology that is helping out creating a more independent life, but we also learned that products such as Google Home, Amazon Alexa, and Apple Siri is helping in new ways. So for example, we talked to a participant called Brandon, that you will also soon meet here, who is using a Google Home and an Amazon Alexa in his home. And this allows him to kind of continue to living a quite independent life at home, and that he doesn't need to live in a nursing home. So he's using the Google Home to do actions like turning off the lights, or using Amazon Alexa or Google Home to receive calls. And also, by talking to Ted, we learned that he is able to interact with friends, call friends, and specifically send text messages by using Siri on his phone. And apart from this, we also quite early on learned that accessibility and user experience between different apps and different websites is differing a lot at the moment. And the online experiences that fail to deliver on accessibility are disappointing and, if possible, ruled out in the favor of a competitor. And something that we learned early on and was kind of eye-opening for us is that within our field, so within forms and surveys, within that industry, we can also see how different companies are taking different kind of approach to accessibility and how much effort they're putting into it. So I think this triggered us as well to like, okay, we want to be good at this. Like, we can see the value it's bringing. And it's something I want you all to kind of bring with you, because yeah, obviously all of us work within different fields, but start to look at what your competitors are doing, because it's happening a lot within this space. So as I mentioned, we're gonna meet Brandon. So Brandon, he lives at home, and he is using a technology called Dragon Natural Speaking, which allows him to use both his voice to control his mouse and to interact directly with the screen. And he's using this technology, which basically kind of replaces his hands. And yeah, let's have a look.
Mouse click, open new tab, press hotel, press enter. Page tab. Okay, so basic. I'm gonna show you how I get, like, if I wanted to find out about one of these programs here, I can get to it without the cover over it. It doesn't collapse. I'll show you. Wake up. Mouse 4. 5-3. Click. Mouse 4. 6. Click. Go to sleep. You see how I did it, like, collapse on me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna go with Netflix to show you the difference. Wake up. Wake up. Open new tab. Press November. Press enter. Mouse 5. 6. Click. Page tab. Page tab. Mouse 4. 3, 2. Get to go to sleep. That's another thing that bothers me is the right down there, it starts displaying the video right away, whenever they're trying to show you a trailer of it. I think it's frustrating too. Wake up. Mouse 1. 8. 9. 9. 6. see how it disappeared there? I tried to get to that little drop down arrow button. I couldn't do it because it just collapsed. Mouse 5, 8 1, canceled. Mouse right 10. Yeah, I can't get to it. You see, it's just I have no way of getting to the drop down to learn more about the program. So a lot of times with Netflix, go to sleep. If I don't go to sleep, I might start doing something creepy. So if I'm using Netflix a lot, I use it with a friend with me that can use the mouse and do it easier. It's kind of aggravating. I can't be more independent on this site. But
Okay, so sorry for the sound quality there, but I'll just recap our key message here. So one of our main learnings here from talking to Brandon is, as you can see, he's showing us the difference between using Hulu and Netflix. And with Hulu, he can use it perfectly fine on his own, where Netflix, he actually needs to invite a friend to come over to help him to preview the content and select the content he wants to watch. And of course, it can be nice to have a friend sometime to watch Netflix with. But I think, again, bringing us back to the key learning here, like we all should make sure that it's possible to use our products independently and not requiring other people to having to help out. So lastly, we have one more video clip here. Rachel, let's see if the quality gets a little bit better. Rachel is partly sighted. She's using a technology called magnification. And she used to be a student. She graduated, and here she's showing us how she's using and navigating Typeform on her mobile and telling us a little bit about what we can do to make it better.
So I think with this too, that it's, I think most surveys do it anyways, but it's good that it's like grayed out to indicate that, okay, you've maxed out the number of answers you can give.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. I just want to try it again just to, I think, yeah, with that page it goes a little bit too quickly. I don't have much of a complaint about the images, like they're big enough, but like I said with the previous ones, if like this, I don't know what the word is, but this thing on the page, I'm sorry, I can't think of the proper wording. If it was just a bit larger anyways, like to fill out the page more,
Mm-hmm.
I think, I think like the images are fine as they are, but if you guys were to sort of make the form bigger, a little bit bigger anyways, I think it would be fine.
Mm-hmm. Do you mean sorry, could you elaborate a little bit? Making the form bigger? What do you mean?
Like back here, right? Sorry, like where it doesn't really fill the page. Like I do think these boxes could be a bit bigger because there's quite a lot of space still. I'm not sure what the word is for it though. Like in terms of when you're building a site, like I know there's a name for this kind of thing. I just can't remember.
Yeah.
Like payment, I think.
I'm fully following you. So it's like making use of the space, I would guess. Like, and are you saying the same with the pictures? That,
yeah, I mean, this page is a lot more filled out than the other ones because there's pictures, but I still see there's some white space down here. So I think that like this text could still be a bit bigger, like there would still be space.
Right, yes.
Okay, so after these, we hope you got a better understanding of how we are working and the activities that we're doing, and to understand where we are. I think Olga, this is still you, right?
Oh yeah, sorry, I thought I muted myself. So yeah, so we've got the great opportunity to test the different typeforms with 4 assistive technology users, and also, as you've seen a little bit from here today, talk to 8 assistive technology users one-on-one.
And yeah, and now moving forward, so we're doing a lot of other initiatives inside Typeform, but 2 of the most important ones for us now are, first, the accessibility report. So every 3 months, we are launching, we are gathering all these interviews and also the tests that we are doing, and gathering all the data and trying to share with the whole company to better understand the learnings, the issues, our biggest issues that we've seen repeated, and also make sure that we are tracking our improvements. So every 3 months, we just send a presentation, getting the data that we received from Fable, that is our partner, into how it's working on desktop, mobile, and what are the issues with our question blocks that we have a Typeform, so that everyone has a better understanding and we can start working on these. And to start working on these, it is also one of the biggest challenge that we have now, and we're working really hard on, is how to really integrate accessibility into our workflow, so that we make sure that we not only fill these web content guidelines, the requirements, but also make sure to get the user feedback and improve our product. And with these, just the final takeaways, going back from the beginning of the presentation. It is understanding that disability, it is not just a health problem, as Olga showed in the beginning, the persona spectrum as well, how you can go from having a temporary or situational, but also, and when you solve for one, you extend for many others. Trying to shift accessibility from just meeting requirements to making it usable by involving the assistive technology users into the development process. Understanding that independency is key for these users. And lastly, that accessibility needs to be moved from just a feature that you add to a foundational element to your research, your design, and your development process. And I think that's all. And we have time for, we're a bit over time.
Amazing stuff. Thank you very much, Olga and Yuri, for putting that talk on at the Meaningful event. And thanks for rejoining us here. So I'm going to bring you both back on stage so we can go to the questions section, because I think we have some questions. So yeah, thanks again. We have a bunch of questions from our community. We have 20 minutes left on the live stream here, so we'll try and get through as many as we can, and then if there are other questions that kind of come in and we're not able to answer in time, then we have the community post where we will post the recording, and we can kind of carry on the discussion then. And I'll share some more details on that before the end, and how you can kind of access that. So if you're both ready, let's crack on with the questions. Cool. So the first one we have is a question here. Who did you involve in making accessibility decisions? Who wants to take this one?
It was way too many people involved. Not that, and I think this was really good. It was just that I think, as we explained and even spoke before, it is such a long process that so many people have to get involved, and the way that we are trying to implement accessibility at Typeform, it needs to involve a lot of people. So I think if we start talking in the beginning, we were very lucky that we had our CPO that really wanted to work on this in the end of 2019 and pushed for it. At the same time, we had Darcy, our design director, that also pushed a lot for this. So we got a lot of traction from the beginning, but we always have to remember that this started with as an engineering initiative as well. So the engineers were very involved on this. But then after we were able to get this going, we had to not only involved the researchers, we involved the designers, we also involved the engineers. And as soon as we started understanding how we wanted to work on a daily basis, which we have a partner that we test, as we showed on the presentation, that we test accessibility with assistive technology users. We also involved PMs so that we could understand how to put accessibility in the process from the beginning, so that engineers would work on from the beginning, designers and researchers as well. And this being a company process, this went also to the engineering directors, to our CTO as well, and all of them were giving feedback on how they believed we could improve the workflow, how it should work. Nowadays, we have a lot of we are involving a lot also the customer support people as well, to whenever we have issues on accessibility that we know we will have from time to time. We know how to report them. We know how to make it clear for our engineers or designers to work on. So yeah, there were a lot of people.
And then just to add, it's as we talked about in this presentation, it's an ongoing journey. Like, we don't see this as, we did the initiative and now we're done. And I think specifically you and I are like championing hard that like we continue to think about accessibility. And that means that we are also looking at different parts of our experience, different part of Typeform. So in the past year, we focused on the respondent experience. But now we're talking about, the other parts of Typeform, like, the creator experience. What about that one? The website, what about that one, etc. And of course, like, these different parts of Typeforms needs to involve different people, different stakeholders, different people who look over those areas. So I think if we do another talk in a year or two, soon maybe everyone at Typeform has been part in some way.
Well, I mean, that would be incredible, actually. Cool, thanks. So there's a question, I guess, that kind of relates to this, maybe around kind of working in teams, but the question is, what challenges did you encounter and how did you overcome them? So I guess sort of beyond the challenges of working with kind of different stakeholders and departments, is there anything that you could comment here?
I mean, I can start on again, like more on a personal level, and then interesting to hear, because I think we probably had multiple challenges, but one for me when I started and joined this initiative about a year ago was that I actually didn't know much about accessibility, and I didn't know much about how user research could fuel the initiative. So as a researcher, the first kind of challenge was to understand, how can I bring value? How can, like, I knew that we probably should involve users, but in what way, what stages, how can we make sure it's impactful? So yeah, on a more personal level, it was to start to educate myself and educate really quickly, because this was an initiative already kind of spinning up. Yeah, I think I'm super thankful for working with Jury, who already was like a little bit ahead, since he was part of the kind of core team working. No, he's just no. But then I think this guild, as I mentioned, like there are two things. Like we were supposed to present work, but we also gathered a group that maybe half of them had been working on accessibility, so we could learn from them and learn as a group. And now, like, again, on a personal level, I'll feel more comfortable in talking about the topic and being that champion within the organization.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely came across in the talk. It seems like you and the team have learned loads, right, in the process. Yuri, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think we always have challenges, and as always said, it will go from personal to the business challenges, and I do believe we had all of them. I do believe we were also lucky that, as I said, in the beginning, we had a lot of support from the CPO, from our design director as well. But it's a big, like, nowadays Typeform, it is a bigger company, and like I also put as challenges that we had to go sometimes a bit out of our comfort zone, in the sense of, like, I'm a designer, I'm a product designer, but at some point we had to build business cases to explain the value that these would bring, why this was important for us to show to the leadership and understand, like, we need to get these to get these in the in our workflow and so on. We had to build a documentation for how we believe the accessibility workflow should work at Typeform, involving research, PMs, engineers, designers, and this is all out of our scope, which is a challenge for us. And I think it's funny, and it might sound a bit even corny, because it ties a lot to one of Typeform's value, that it's to own it. And I think this is what has a lot to do with, it's as soon as me and always said, no, like, we need to focus on these, we need to make this happen. We had a lot of people also, like, that wanted to make these, so let's just own these, and whatever we need to do to make these work and to keep these going, we will do, independently. If it can be me designing something, but it can be us building a business case or a workflow that will involve way more people. And I think these are the challenges that will probably appear to everyone, and you shouldn't be discouraged by it. I think what we get from it is that we learn so much from it, that it's super valuable.
Yeah. Again, for sure, I think all that you've shared is kind of testament to that. Next, we're going to go to a question that's come through on the YouTube chat from John Desborough, aka Des, who is a friend of the community. Good to see you, Des. I hope you're doing well. So the question Des asks is, thank you for the work that you've done on this. Is there a test accessibility link or example where we can test out Typeforms and make a quick assessment? Is that something that's available either on the web or as part of Typeform, or are there plans for any of that?
Yeah, this is something that we still don't have available. This is even a project we work it quickly, but we still need to understand how to, because we work it quickly kind of outside the day-to-day scope. It was something that we saw as a need and that we worked, but we're still trying to figure out how to incorporate these into our product itself. I think what is important here is that most of the accessibility features are already there. It's not something that we need to do to make sure that it's accessible. So if you build a Typeform and share it, it should be accessible. But there are also smaller things that it would be really nice to have a link, a tool like this, as for color contrast. There are small things that the creator also needs to do, as to make sure that if there are images there on your Typeform, they should add alt text as well, and so on. But yeah, this is something that we are like, we have it, but we are just trying to figure out how to implement into the product to make sure that it feels like the product and it really gives value.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thanks, Yuri. We do actually have a Help Center article as well on how to create accessible Typeforms. So maybe Des, you can have a look at that. We can share that in the community post and in the YouTube chat. So yeah, that gives some tips on use of images, etc. So the next one, I mean, we're 7 minutes away from the end, so let's try and get through some more questions. The next one here that we have is, when did you start and end thinking about accessibility?
So I can start from a research perspective, and then I'm sure you can talk more about design and maybe some development. We never end thinking about accessibility. No, but for real, it's definitely something that we see as an ongoing process. But for research, as we mentioned on the talk today, how we had like structure it was that we started with doing like kind of compatibility reviews to see you know, if we reach compliance, and we did two rounds of that because there was like a backlog of work that we just needed to do. And then when we started involving users and doing more kind of user research activities, we started by kind of validating the changes that we've had made based on this kind of initial work. So again, like about a year ago, we had, from a research perspective, like a backlog of different question types that we wanted to test with users directly and see how they reacted, if we had missed anything, etc. So from a research perspective, that was like, at that point, it was still quite evaluative and more reactive. But what we realized is that during this interviews or user tests that we do, we collect a lot of other information that might not be directly relevant to that evaluation, but that we also save and categorize as like improvements. And where we are now is that we, as the team develops new question types, we are involved with research much earlier. So even before kind of launching it, we try to test it out. But But then what I'm hoping from a research perspective is that in the future we can be even more proactive. So say this insights that we've categorized as improvements that are not like specifically related to the test, that we can take that information upfront, share it with the designers, with the developers. So when they start to think about creating an enhancement to a question type or create a new question type, they can have this information that we've collected already in mind while doing it. So yeah, that from a research perspective, we try to think about it more and more on a proactive. Yeah, but that's from research. You probably have some thoughts from design also.
Yeah. So when we start and end in thinking about accessibility, I think I always try to think about the process. And as Olga said, it starts in the research and how we bring these insights later on to the process. We do have, like, we are already passing these insights and these discoveries that we do to our designers and to our engineers as well. And by doing that, they also start considering how these should work on the work that they are performing, even before this is in production. So while they are designing or just starting to build the code. And we are now trying to understand how we can bring even something that is starting to be built to be tested as well, so that we really incorporate these user testing in the beginning. And we're still trying to figure out the best way to make sure that we bring the most value to these tests. But it's something that we are doing, but still trying to improve. So it will, like, as Olga said, it never ends. It will start there on research. We're gonna consider these on design as well, on the engineering side, and later on when it's live. And if we get feedback from it, we'll have to, and if it's good feedback, perfect. But if it's something that we need to improve, we'll have a look again and try to improve, understand what is not working, and so on. So yeah, it's start from the beginning and never ends.
Okay. Okay, we're almost at time. Have you guys got time for one more question?
Yes.
I think to an extent you've kind of answered this. So maybe we could look at this in the sense of like, look, so the question is, what would you do differently next time? Maybe the question should be like, what if you could speak to the Typeform team when they first started, kind of all of those years ago, what would you say to them?
I think this is something that a lot of people already talk when talking about accessibility, and like it's something that it's easy to speak, but it's really, really hard to really implement it. But the thing is to understand that if you consider accessibility only in the end of your process, it's gonna cost you way more. Not like money, time as well, time from design, development, research, but also money for you to be able to stop whatever you were doing, you were building new, to focus on accessibility. So I think the perfect scenario will be that from the beginning, you do understand the value that building inclusive experience has, and put the proper training in place, because it is understandable as well that maybe not everyone has a good, as Olga and I said, we didn't have very much knowledge. So we really need the first step to be getting this knowledge. So it can be by yourself, but it can also be putting a training in place from the beginning, so that from the beginning we can start building accessible and inclusive experiences, and you will only see advantages from it. And I do think these would be what I would love to have done differently if we could move back and start from it.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Yeah, unfortunately we can't, but you guys are doing a fantastic job of kind of driving us in that direction now, and we greatly appreciate it. And we appreciate your time here today, and for kind of resharing the presentation that you gave. So just one piece of housekeeping before we go is to say that the recording will be posted up on the community. So Yuri made a community post, which I'm going to try and share now, if I can share my screen, where basically we will house the, so here it is. We will house the recording here, and then you folks can use the comments to ask more questions, and we can kind of carry on the discussion, assuming that's fine with you and with Yuri and Olga.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's perfect.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So once again, thanks very much. We really appreciate you doing this. Thanks very much as well to Tommy behind the scenes, who's been running the YouTube stream. And thanks to everyone for joining us. We really appreciate you coming here and hearing what we have to say, and we hope that it's been really helpful and useful to you. And yeah, more webinars and talks and info and sharing on its way. So thanks a lot, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your days, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Olga.